I think just publicity about the issue, just the fact that some dude came to jail for a $96 ticket, ended up in a turtle suit, thrown in a hole, and died after spending 5 days in a solitary confinement. I think that the public should be aware of it. That's the main thing. And are there some procedures that should be changed? There are cameras in there. This whole thing was on camera. Somebody needs to get a hold of that camera. All right, my name is Edward Fortune. Publicly, I'm known as the New Jersey Weed Man, and I've been a First Amendment rights and the legalization of marijuana activist basically for the last 15 to close to 20 years now. I was in jail serving a sentence. In December of 2013, I got released. I think it was December 28th or 28th. But when I came back on December 9th, one of the first things that happened to me is a inmate came up to me. He welcomed me back and all that. Yeah, welcome back to jail. But anyway, he came up to me. His name was Sean. I never met him before, but he knew me. I'm pretty well known. The whole activist thing, and so that night, that Monday, we went to the law library because I was on D wing. On D wing is the day that they go to the law library. So we go to the law library, and he types up this little short thing that he was working off his notes, and he typed up something, about why he, what he witnessed, and he asked me to mail it out. I mailed it out, to a couple people, but I never received any mail back, so we didn't know if it even made it out. But then a day or two before I actually left from my 20-day sentence, he actually wrote up this whole 5-page handwritten rendition of what happened, and he'd already had his notes. Like you can tell when he was locked up, he took notes. He had all the officers who came in and out. What Sean told me sounded like murder to me. Everyone that he told happened felt the same way. The jail, from what we understood, acknowledged that there was a murder, that there was a death, but they classified it as natural causes. But when you read Sean's rendition of it, of what he witnessed, it doesn't sound like a natural death to me. I'll read the letter. This is the letter that Sean wanted me to give to any news media or any lawyer or anybody, because he's still in jail, and when you're in jail, you do have limited contact. Even if you mail a letter out, you never really know if it makes it out, because you have to give your mail to the guards. You don't know if they just take it and drop it in the trash or not. You never know. And when you don't get any mail in, you don't know if no one wrote you or any mail that you're getting is thrown in the trash or read or confiscated, whatever. So you don't know. And that was his situation. He felt like he wasn't sure if his mail was making it out. I wasn't sure if my mail was making it out. But when I was being released, this is what he wrote for me to hand out, to give out to whoever. And you have received one. All right? To those who fought for human rights. And it's dated January 26, 2014. My name is Sean C. Terzansky, and I am currently incarcerated in the Burlington County Detention Center. I'm 29 years old, college educated, and have no prior felony convictions. This letter is my first-hand factual testimony in regards to a murder/cover-up I witnessed during my time here. My goal is not to better my chances in court or leverage the system, but rather gain justice and punish those who failed to value a life. I was placed in ADSEG, which is segregated detention. They call it ADSEG, meaning administrative detention. Okay, I was placed in SEG unit on December 24th, 2013, after defending myself in a 2-versus-1 fight. My sanction was for 15 days. For those not familiar with the living conditions, it's the county jail's version of the hole. 24-hour lockdown, no reading material, ice cold shower every 3 days, if lucky, and temperatures in our cell which leave one shivering constantly. And I actually went to the hole before too for having a banned substance, and those are the conditions. It's cold. You don't get nothing to read. It's you know, it's. I was only there for 3 days. 3 days of absolute boredom. So he got sentenced to 15 days. So that's crazy. All right. 2 days later, on December 26, 2013, came the arrival of Mr. Robert Taylor, a 74-year-old local homeless man who suffered from the disease of alcoholism. I was told by the COs that he was locked up merely for a $96 unpaid ticket, and that this was not the first time he had been arrested for petty charges. Again, the word around was when he wanted to get out of the cold, he would do something to get locked up in the county jail, where it's still colder, it's still warmer than it is outside. All right, his physical state was not good, being that he was going through withdrawal. Sergeant Nunn stated rather than tie up a CO to watch him in the clinic where Taylor belonged, it was much more convenient to toss him in SEG, despite the fact that he did nothing wrong. In addition, he was stripped of his clothes and placed in a turtle suit, which is nothing more than a one-piece vest for those deemed suicidal. When cell 203 was opened for his arrival, he was thrown in on the hard concrete floor as opposed to the standard bunk. Those in turtle suits received no clothes, mat, or blankets. Over the next 5 days, Mr. Taylor's physical condition began to deteriorate rapidly. I could see the meals on his tray slot sit there until being thrown away because he was simply too weak to get off the floor where he was initially placed. 15 meals was the total in which he didn't eat in those 5 days. COs would half-heartedly ask him if he was hungry, then throw his tray away. Mr. Taylor seemed to be nonverbal and in need of immediate medical attention. Sergeant Nunn, on one of his rounds, said maybe it would be better for everyone if he just died. I was able to briefly peer into Taylor's cell on day 3 during a routine search of my cell, in which I was in the main SEG area. The smell was unbearable. The CO stated that he had been defecating feces and blood, as well as urinating in the exact same position where initially placed. You would think this would be sufficient to get him to a hospital, but that was not the response. Instead, they would open Mr. Taylor's cell on occasion and spray the room and himself with Lysol. Is this medieval times? How could anyone be left there to rot in this condition? So weak he could not eat, drink, or reach the toilet, but yet be classified as suicidal. The nurses would come to SEG on a daily basis to administer medication to the inmates. They would call his name, but yet not check any vitals or even enter his cell. On the 29th of December, I clearly heard Mr. Taylor in the likeness of a child begging for help. He said it several times out loud, yet still nothing was done. I personally yelled at the COs and staff on a regular basis, but I was ignored and told to shut up if I knew it was best for me. On December 30th at approximately 4:30 p.m., the COs under command of Sergeant Nunn decided to check on Mr. Taylor. They opened his cell to find him dead. 5 days, 15 meals, no water, and still lying on the concrete floor naked where he was initially placed. Sergeant Nunn instructed the nurses to get the defibrillator to try to bring him back. They used the machine for about 30 minutes until the Mount Holly police and paramedics showed up. The paramedics told the nurses to stop simply upon looking at Mr. Taylor, and that he had been dead for a significant period. Rigor mortis had set in. I was immediately taken out of my cell and placed in another area of the jail for several days until SEG was cleared. I was the only person to witness the demise of Mr. Taylor from beginning to end. I'm not a medical doctor, nor do I know the exact cause of his death. I do, however, know that what I saw and heard was not standard protocol. The direct neglect of medical attention ultimately led to his death. The lack of care from COs, especially in charge. And then he named 3 officers who, again, I know all 3 of these officers, and they all seem to be cool to me. Sergeant Nunn, Captain McDonald, and Sergeant Davis. First I thought he was talking about, there's 2 Sergeant Davises, one's a male, one's a female. I thought he was talking about the Sergeant Davis, the male, but later I realized he was talking about Sergeant Davis, the female, which again is surprising to me. I mean, she seems to be a very personable person. I would think that she would reach over and ask Mr. Taylor, like, what the hell's wrong with you or something, you know? But I don't know. I'm just, again, I'm passing on the letter. Okay, I'll finish this. Okay, as well as countless others who worked in SEG during this period should be punished. I have sent several letters to various media publications as well as activists, but have yet to receive any response. I truly believe my mail is being tampered with. I need your help to win the fight. It has been my pleasure to meet N.J. Weedman after being placed back onto the housing unit. I have given him full rights and authority to speak on my behalf while I'm still incarcerated. I should be home in several months. And he says, I did receive a response from the prosecutor's office on the third week of this month. That happened like a day or two before I left. I gave them full testimony in person about the events I mentioned here. Something must be done to punish those whose actions led to Mr. Taylor's death. I will not be silenced. Please put pressure on Warden, the freeholders, and the prosecutor's office. BCJ, and he stars this, BCJ will not get away with this murder cover-up. Please stay vigilant. Letters, interviews, media coverage, and visits are all welcome and encouraged. Do not let Mr. Taylor's death be in vain. And then he gives his email address at home so he can look at any responses later. But the crazy thing, the real thing, that, like I was going to kind of pass it off and move on. And me and Sean had talked about something. I told him, well, you still in jail. Like, you know, I hope nothing happens to you. You get this letter out, and I hope nothing happens to you. And we both were pretty confident nothing would happen. But just a couple of days ago, when I was out and about, I was at the county building myself doing something, and I run into this guy named Mike Mathis. Mike Mathis was a inmate also. He was actually Sean's cellmate. When I left, Mike was Sean's cellie. Mike tells me that the day after I left on a Tuesday, so on that Wednesday, he tells me that that when they went to the gym, the warden showed up at the gym. The warden's never at the gym. I mean, I can never remember seeing the warden at the gym. But anyway, he said the warden showed up at the gym, and Sean and the warden got into a verbal confrontation in front of everyone. And he said that he heard the warden saying things like, you couldn't see nothing because you were in your cell. How are you going to see in somebody else's cell? You know, which Sean already answered that in this letter. When he went to take a shower, he looked in. Okay, that was one thing. And he said that you know, the warden basically was questioning his like what he saw, and then retaliated and put him in the hole. Like he had him locked up. You know, we're already locked up in jail at that point, but that's what they call it. You get re-locked up, you go to the jail within the jail, you go to the hole, and that's what he said happened. Right? They were at rec. Next thing you know, the warden called a code, and officers came in and took Sean to the hole. And as of the time that Mike Mathis had left, he said Sean had not come back from the hole. No one came to their cell even to get Mike's stuff. I mean, to get Sean's stuff. Like usually that would happen too. They throw you in a hole, then they pack all your stuff, they put it away for you, so when you get out of the hole, you get all your stuff back. So there was a whole indifference to him anyway. Like, no, you know, that's even unusual. They didn't come get his stuff. Yeah. But as of now, you know, I think Sean's been in the hole for about 10 days since putting this letter out. And I think what happened, again, my conjecture here, but I got released on Tuesday. Tuesday night, I sent it to a couple people. I posted it online. Wednesday morning, I actually had a friend of mine who saw my Facebook told me, dude, you should take that down. You don't have enough, you know, that's not your fight. You know, take that down. Plus, you have to go back to jail. You know, you don't want the jail guards to retaliate and do something to you. So take it down. And you know what? I took that as good advice, and I took it down. You know, but apparently it was too late because that was about the same time the next day that the warden had confronted Sean. And he even said that he wasn't the only one. He just was there for the entire 5 days because he got sentenced for 15 days. There was a couple other people that were just there for a day or two, so they witnessed part of it. There was another individual who also complained, and they shipped him to another jail. Apparently he left from, they took him out of Burlington County Jail and put him into Camden County Jail because he wrote a letter to the freeholders complaining about the conditions and what he just witnessed, Mr. Taylor's death. Now, they removed him. They didn't remove Sean, but then my letter got out, and now Sean's in the hole. But something happened. Something happened at the jail. And the fact that a day or two after I got released, after I put this letter of Sean's into people's hands, now Sean is in the hole, and it's scary. I mean, what if they even were being funny and put him in the same exact cell that Mr. Taylor died? And, you know, Mr. Taylor died in 203. I wonder if right now, if Sean is in 203.
I'm going to prison for arithmetic. I added 1 to a fucking number on a public web server, and I aggregated this data and I gave it to a fucking journalist at that man's publication. And this is why I am going to prison.
I believe they put in the motion to dismiss to get rid of me right away. This is bad publicity for them. Why would they want this story out there? They cited